Hello and welcome back to Good Game Nation, where we bring you all things TCG. My name's Preston. I'm here with Sam. Say hello.
Hello. This is a pretty interesting Meta Monday.
Yeah, we had a very interesting championship over in Japan. This was the Fukuoka preliminary championship, and it happened over the weekend, and it was wild. We had such a interesting top four, and really we're just talking about Rebecca today. I don't know how else to put it. You saw the thumbnail. It's just going to have Rebecca a bunch of times on it. So it's really interesting to see this leader not only win, but just felt like it was so dominant in this finals. So let's jump into first place. You have the tweet up, right?
I have the tweet up. This is the preliminary area tournament in Fukuoka. How'd I do?
Nope, Fukuoka.
Fukuoka. I gave it an A for effort. But we have our first preliminary area tournament, and spoiler, it was Rebecca. When we talked about Rebecca in our tier list video, it was someone we labeled in potential for a lot of the reasons that we're going to talk about. They have explosive KO power. You were watching. I could hear your reaction when you were watching the matches, and the combo that we were talking about most with Bounce Man and King Kong Gun is truly competitive towards the end of the game, and they took first, second, and third.
Yeah, I mean, a some form of Rebecca took the whole tournament basically.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, just as we go, they're fairly different. I mean, some key cards are different and everything else is fairly solid. You only have so much you can work with
Right.
when you're running Dressrosa, but I like to see that there's some variation. They had some playstyle differences
Yep.
that is really interesting just to like see how these players choose what to play, and they didn't choose all of the same things, which is cool.
Yeah, the core of the deck stays the same. The heavy hitters, the Sabos, the Luffys, the King Kong guns.
Mhm.
Some of these support cards like Kyros. This Bard is very good. A lot of the key stays the same. Differences that are here. Kaya, surprisingly how good it is in this deck. It makes sense. Draw two, discard two, helps Rebecca a
Mhm.
lot. We don't see her too much. A lot of people to shy away from her. Barrier is a card that I tend not to see too much in these Rebecca decks. A really cool event card. And then Kuzan. Not many of the Admirals make this list. I think this is the only one. Now we're going to cover more in the next deck. But typically we don't see the 4-drop.
Right.
This is a pretty cool ad. I think this is a really good card as well. I'm wondering if this is one we take with us after this tournament's all said and done.
And it's interesting that Kuzan wasn't played very much in their set three, from what I can remember. Uh, for some reason, the 4-drop fell off as harder than even the 10-drop in set three.
Mm.
But it's interesting. But then one of the more interesting things for me is what I'm calling just Rebecca Black, because I'm a troll. Um, that these don't have very many blue cards, and that's such an interesting concept to me because blue is so disgusting when it comes to field control and just overall board presence. These decks kind of just pick and choose and mostly just choose not to, which is another really interesting approach. And it's doing well. I would figure that some more blue event cards would pop up since they're so nasty,
Yeah.
but really it's just one here and there.
Yeah, and I think when I click the second, this is the first place. Can I click the second tab for second place, just to get a
Mhm.
different idea? See a lot of the same cards, some new ones. But if I had to go like what's the best second color that you could play, like for a leader, I would say it's blue because of how much utility they have. You
Yeah.
can really pick whatever blue card fits whatever meta it is right now. Like in this list, we see 3,000 Worlds and we see no Kayas. So he's right. It's mostly black with a pinch of blue cards here and there. This list is notably playing the other Kuzan, the 10 drop, which has been much more familiar with these lists. And I love seeing the versatility. It's just showing that Rebecca can really play these 10 12 cards. You have a lot of wiggle room. So figure out what works for you. Basically, just play the key cards.
Yeah, and in this one we're not getting Kongun, which is interesting. Which I probably, I mean, they got to second, so
Yeah.
isn't too detrimental to their playstyle, but it feels like they leaned more into Kuzan being able to minus and allowing you to KO stuff repeatedly instead of going for that disgusting explosive Kongun finisher. A card that I like to see here is Six King Pistol.
Yep.
I love zero cost cards. I think this is a fun one for this deck. Also, being able to just trash a card to gain a decent boost. 3K is a decent boost.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't care to get rid of cards to your trash because it just fuels the rest of the stuff. So, or
Yeah.
at least it fuels Luffy.
Yeah, it feels Luffy. It lets you get your second effect off with Bastrado. Playing Kuzan, then having six King Pistols is a nice backup. A lot of people won't see it coming. It definitely has, some wiggle room. And this one's playing the Searcher, Rebecca. Notably, it wasn't in the last list. So you can get away without playing your Searcher. I think Rebecca might prove to be just enough Search as it is. But again, shows you that wiggle room that you have with this leader. And if we're thinking about mirror matches, Kuzan into Sabo with all this destruction seems like a rough mirror matchup, and I wonder if that might have been, some of that issue. Sabo protects so much of your, what you want to do. So not being able to kill anything kind of ruins you a little bit.
Yeah, I think you could probably say Sabo, full stop, Sabo does so much. Just in the sense there, because that card's ridiculous. It has so many things that it's doing on play and then blocking and drawing. It's just ridiculous. So making sure that you're seeing those is probably one of the more important things. Which I think that's kind of why this deck plays the Searcher also, just to have another way to dig. Because there's only so much you can do in this deck before you're going to run out of steam. So if you're getting those Sabos and just being able to draw two every turn, turn after turn at least, on that on play, you'll keep your hand pretty healthy, and you'll finally dig up whatever you're looking for, either the Luffy or the Kuzan for that final push.
Yeah. Out of the three, I know we haven't seen the third one yet, but out of the three, I think this is probably the closest to what I'm going to call standard, what I see probably more frequently. The event cards are definitely interchangeable. I think people have, their preferences. And if I flash the third place list, we're going to see even a more diverse event list. This one's playing Gum Gum Red Rock. We knocked down some of the counts. We're playing almost the exact same cards, but we made room for Gum Gum Red Rock, and I think this is a wonderful card, for the mirror specifically. This is a way to remove that Luffy that can be difficult to remove, that you have to remove. And Sabo gives you that protection, obviously, so you have to find other ways to remove it sometimes. Again, blue is your best friend for this. Every other color doesn't really have a way to remove it. Green can maybe keep it tapped, but no one's really playing that version of Dofi. So we're looking at bounces. We're looking at Red Rock. We're looking at Mihawks, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, this has 7 removals just with their blue cards.
Yep.
And on top of, like, everything, we're seeing a different number of Colosseums in all of these. First place had 0 Colosseums. Second place had 4, and now third place has 2. It's really interesting the value that each player put on that, and it's interesting to see. It could just be that these are best of ones, I believe, and all 3 of these decks are gonna beat each other no matter what. Just at some point, depending on the luck of the draw, the luck of playing through, or just the skill of outplaying your opponent, each one of these decks probably beats the other one at some point.
Yeah, most of this deck comes down to, did I see Luffy and did I see Gum Gum King Kong Gun?
Hmm.
The utility, it's very interchangeable. Black and blue have had very, very good sets for this. Blue, you can say, is questionable, but they've always had, a couple good event cards or something you
Hmm.
can, point at and be like, wow, those are a couple good cards, like Kaya from set 3. And
Yeah.
then these wonderful event cards from this set. Um, so it's just who can see this combo first. That's kind of real key to it. That's why I think Rebecca and the Rebecca Searcher are both very good in this deck to be able to find these KO pieces. It's one of the few decks that have this really clear win condition. You play Luffy and then you play Gum Gum King Kong Gun and then you win.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, it's there's definitely a clear in game when you're playing Rebecca and when you're playing black right now. You play until you can get Luffy on the board, and then you either play Luffy and attack with him twice per turn, or you play King Kong Gun and finish the game. It's just it's really cool to finally see more decks
Hmm.
and not have to talk about red. We haven't had to talk about red for a while now, and that's just really exciting to see this meta uh, flourish and blossom into something that we haven't had so far, which gives me a lot of hope for when set 4 comes to the west,
Hmm.
and to see if we can steal some of this inspiration now and play more interesting decks in the west for set 3.
Yep.
I'm already hearing a lot of talk about Katakuri in the west, so I'm really excited to see this game evolve past red wins every game.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I fully agree. We're going to ignore the looming starter deck that's going to hit our shelves in a couple months. We're not going to talk about that. I think it's also interesting to see what this deck does next tournament. There's obviously a little bit of a surprise factor. I don't think Rebecca is incredibly popular. Leaders that didn't have the attack generally get frowned upon quickly. So to see it supplemented with this double attack feature obviously has done it this much, where we took first, second, and third, which is huge.
yeah.
It hasn't been on our radar for the tournament so far, so it's the first topping, and then it's the first.
Hmm.
So I'm excited to see what this deck does next. I want to see it. I want to see it do it again. I want to see it back here next tournament. That's the goal.
Yeah. And we'll also see how the rest of the meta responds to this. Are
Hmm.
they going to be able to find an answer for this just onslaught of Luffy attacks, or do they respond with blue? Crocodile is making a huge resurgence right now,
Yep.
and I think it's because it has those cards that we've been talking about this whole episode of removal, and the croc ability has removal,
Hmm.
and that might be a way to keep these nasty things away from your opponent, like being able to use against you and stuff like that. So we'll have to see how we respond to this.
Hmm.
And I think there's another tournament coming up shortly, so we'll know soon what happens.
It's all exciting. I think there's a lot of cool
Yeah.
decks that could pop up. I think black as a color is pretty solid. I think it's just a little bit unexplored, weirdly enough.
Hmm.
So this might be the first of many iterations of these types of decks. So I think this Luffy is the real deal, and I don't know if it has to be played with Rebecca. So
Right.
I'm curious to see what other things start popping out. Definitely exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Thank you all for watching. If you're still here, uh, let us know what you thought about these decks in the comments down below. Are you interested in seeing a match with Rebecca or something like that? Let us know. Give us a thumbs up. Do all the things. And until next time, we'll see you around. Peace.
Bye bye. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Rebecca, Rebecca, Rebecca. I,
Ooh, that's gonna be the bottom of my thumbnail.
yeah. I couldn't find a Rebecca wallpaper, so I had to go with Bounce Man. I feel like that's the same thing.
It's about the same for this video.
Yeah.